Kaylin Homan. This is my video for the Finance Simulation Capital Budgeting Simulation C. Let's see. Okay, so the original original budget was around $9 million. So you had to choose projects based on the $9 million allotment, which was kind of difficult. I thought it'd be a lot easier than it was, honestly. But I ended with an APV of 617.98. And I'm more pleased with the graph than I am at the ending APV. I like that it steadily inclines. That was my goal. There was a couple of times when I would have the big spike and then it would quickly drop, and then eventually it would rise again steadily. But honestly, the more consistent the incline, the better. It's kind of bad when it spikes up really fast and then goes back down, because it usually means that you introduced a product that was really big in the beginning, and then the demand for it went away really as fast as it was introduced, honestly. So it's usually the more steadily it inclines, the better. So I was pretty pleased that with the ending here. There was a little spot right here where it lulled, which I'm okay with. There's times when, as long as it wasn't declining, honestly, so that's fine. Let's see. So it gives you these three options right here: revenue by division, operating profit by division, and total assets by division. It looks like most of my revenue came from retail, and then by production, and a small portion came from licensing. I was a lot more familiar with the projects I did from retail and production. I think that's probably why. And then total assets, most of my assets are in production, which was kind of surprising. I thought most of them would be in retail too, but that's okay. It looks like I outperformed the original forecast, so my revenue and net income, I made more than the projects forecasted, which is really good. Between 2009 and current, there's a pretty large increase, which is really, it's good to have. The larger increase, the better, obviously. Let's look at the income statement and balance sheet. This is really good to look at because it gives you a snapshot of what happened at a certain point of time, obviously 2014, 2015, and then what the overall projects came out to be. It kind of tells you where your money went, where you gained money, where you lost money, where you could do better in the future. This is really good for companies to kind of see it makes decisions easier in the future, and it kind of helps you analyze your past performance, so that's good. Let's see. It also goes into detail between licensing, retail, and production, and then the whole company consolidated. So it kind of gives you the overall. The 2014 net income was $24.71, and the projected was in 2024 was 65. So that's a pretty large increase. So that's good. And then it'll kind of give you, like, this is what's current, this is what's happening now, and this is the projected. So, I mean, obviously this is an if and a maybe, but this is still good. And then, let's see. The cash flow statement, this is kind of nice too. It tells you where the money came from, so accounts receivable, inventory, that sort of thing. It'll tell you your total cash flow, what you're bringing in, what you're projected to bring in. It looks like it drops a little bit right here. I'm guessing that's where the little lull is on the graph. But that's fine as long as it increases in the next few years. It looks like between 2014 and 2024, it's almost double, so that's okay. And then the ending cash balance is important as long as it's steadily increasing, which it is. It doesn't look like there's really any dips or anything like that. It looks like between each year it steadily increases by a little bit. So between 2014 and 2024, there's a pretty large increase, which is good. Let's see, financial analysis. This kind of gives you the valuation analysis between the taxes, what the taxes that you got on there and that sort of thing. So that's nice. This was really neat. This is actually kind of how I picked my projects. I started out by looking for the NPV. Obviously, like the larger the NPV, the more attractive the project was in the beginning. But I didn't choose my projects just solely based on the NPV. After the NPV, I looked at the payback period, and I didn't choose any projects over 10 years of a payback period. And in real life, it might not be that big of a deal. It depends on the project life of your project that you're choosing. But as long as I chose projects that had less than 10 years, so, and then the least project payback amount of years, the better. I kind of tried to even it out a little bit. Like if I chose a couple that had a longer payback period, I would choose a couple that had a shorter payback period. That way you get that instant cash flow and that kind of thing. So that's kind of what you strive for when you look at the payback period. The initial rate of return I looked at with projects that had a small NPV, because sometimes they might have a small NPV, but you're getting that money back. It's pretty likely that you're going to get your money back or whatever in those small investments, so that's good. Another thing I looked at was the EBITDA. There was like the first year and the fifth year. It's okay that the first year it was in the negative. I didn't really care if the first year was in the negative as long as the fifth year was greatly increased. So if there was a large increase between the first year and the fifth year, I thought that project was really attractive, and I usually chose it. Something that was very realistic was the fact that you had a budget, because in most companies you do have a budget to work with, and it kind of influences your choices from the beginning to the end. You can't go crazy purchasing a bunch of projects in the beginning because you'll run out of money towards the end and that sort of thing. So you really have to be conscientious throughout the whole process of your budget and your resources that you have. Let's see. Another thing is there were small projects that I chose based on, let's just go there and try to see. There were small projects that I chose that didn't really sound that great. Like they didn't, like EDA supplier software system. It had a really small NPV. The initial rate of return was fine on it, but the overall goal, like you kind of need, you need updates and you need to renovate and that sort of thing. So companies always have to purchase these expansions in England. Like you lose money by expanding because you have to build the buildings and that sort of thing. But in the end, the income that you get from the expansion outweighs the money that you pay into building the buildings and that sort of thing. So there was a few of those investments that you get back towards the end. So that was really realistic. Another thing is I liked how it told you what happened with the project. Like, let's see. There was the Tween book series. I honestly it didn't seem that attractive to me in the beginning, the project overall, but I went ahead and chose it because the payback period was mildly good. It had a really good EBITDA. So I just chose it to kind of like on a whim, and it actually did better than was projected. It was actually really good, and so it kind of influenced my future purchases when I redid the simulation because I knew that it would do good. But that was kind of realistic because things that you don't usually think will do well, and vice versa. Things that you think will do well sometimes don't. So that was really neat. Let's see. But yeah, it kind of gives you a realistic version of what it would be like to purchase projects and that sort of thing for your company. And capital budgeting significantly influences companies' performance because of all of this. Like, you have to keep in mind the MPV and the IRR and that sort of thing when you are you're choosing to purchase projects from year to year, because you really want that overall goal of increasing your company's revenue and cash flows. So you have to be conscientious of all of this information that this simulation gives you to have that overall incline in your project. So anyway, this was my video. Thank you for watching.